Hey, sports dads, are you ready for the best combination of fatherhood and football talk? Well, let's go.
It's that time to have a conversation about fatherhood and football and relation. Ready, set, hut, grab your kids and huddle up. We might get deep, but just run it up the gut. So put your jersey on and clap for the home team. It's a dance thing, yeah, you know what I mean. So tell a friend to tune in if you heard me. To the best show in town every Thursday. Fatherhood and football, it's a dad's thing. Fatherhood and football, it's a dad's thing. Fatherhood and football, it's a dad's thing. Fatherhood and football.
Welcome to A Dad's Thing podcast, Fatherhood and Football. I am James Simmons, your in-studio host dad of two amazing daughters. I'm a former middle school, high school, and college football coach, as well as a former wide receiver at D1AA Fordham University in the Bronx. Today we are joined by Coach Vince Sinagra. Coach Sinagra has been a football coach and administrator for over 40 years. This has included most recently Chief of Staff in 2019 for Georgia Tech. Coach was Fordham University's defensive coordinator during the 94-97 seasons. Coach played professionally in the World Football League and Canadian Football Leagues after his collegiate career at Rhode Island. Coach and his wife, Elise, are enjoying a well-deserved retirement after many years dedicated to the development of young men. Coach, thank you and welcome to the show.
My pleasure, man. Good seeing you, man. It's like yesterday. You're only missing the good dreadlocks. I just can't. I still can't picture you with the bald head like mine. See, I got a reason. You can still grow yours, but I got a reason. I can get something.
I'm getting there, and I got a new reason. I've got two girls that are keeping me on my toes, and if you've seen them online, and they've got heads full of hair, and I think they've taken it from Dad because this is about as far as it goes. So I get the buzzers out, and I just let it go. So,
That's
man,
great.
it's funny, like you said, it's just like yesterday. We talked last week, and before I can even say hi, you're like, oh, my man, James Simmons, in that deep Barry Manilow voice you got, and calling out plays that you remember from back in the days, and it is like it was just yesterday.
Yeah.
And I got to say, man, you just make my heart feel so warm to remember 27 years ago. You know what I mean? But that's the great thing about this game of football. It has given us relationships that last a lifetime, and there's special moments that we remember. So I just want to thank you for that, Coach. And I don't know, it's something about defensive guys in my life because I don't know if you knew this, but coming out of high school, I got my first start in the 10th grade. The defensive coordinator said, hey, I need Jimmy over here to cover some of these guys as a cornerback. And he pulled me over, and no one thought I can do it. You know how big I am, 5'5", 130 nothing pounds. But he said, we need him to cover. And that was my start to football, and then I come to Fordham, and you kind of take me under your wing and just appreciate it. Cause I felt like, I just need to belong. And you really made me feel welcome. So thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
We had a ball, man. That's everybody always says I've been around since retirement. I've been a couple of different functions where I've had numerous ex-players of mine, or whether weddings or whatever, and they all say, "Coach, thank you for the things." And you know what? I thank them back because you guys did as much for me and for us to make it go. Because it's like I always say, if you as a coach think you're the difference between winning and losing, then you better go sell books or something or do something else, because it's those dudes that play for you. It's those dudes that you get ready during the week on Saturday, go out and perform. Yeah, coaches have a lot to do with what happens, but you're the guys that make it really happen. So I thank you guys because it's important. And what you said earlier about, going back 27 years and the friendships and the kinships that you make. I was fortunate this year. I was able to go to the University of Rhode Island's homecoming. The first time I'd been back in 41 years because I was always coaching.
Right.
And just like you said, I met guys that I played with that it was just like yesterday. Bang, we're right there busting on each other. You missed that tackle. If you had done that, we would have had more sacks. And it never ends.
Yeah.
No matter how big you think you get in this business or how low you think it never ends. Because once with your boys, it just goes right back to where it all started. And that's the best thing about this football gig, because everybody watches you as you play, but playing is just part of it. As a high school kid, the friendships that you make and the lessons that you learn will last you a lifetime. Because the things you learn in the football field, and you know this, I'm not preaching to the choir here. The things that you learn, whether it's a 4th and 1 or an offensive D. My wife says, you live your life in 4th and 1. And I say, hon, there is no gray area. You either make it or you stop it.
There you go.
If you can't do those two things, then you start all over again. But the lessons that you learn in the locker room, going to practice, walking to practice, putting your pads on, busting on one another, it will last you a lifetime, because once you get in the real world and you start having family and businesses and people working for you, those are the things that get you through. One thing I've always said to many guys wherever I've been, I said, look, there's going to be one day you're going to be sitting at a board meeting. You're going to be sitting in front of the table. There'll be 15, 20 people waiting on every word and bated breath that you take. And they're going to expect this big, long, intro, whatever. And all of a sudden, you're going to start laughing. And they don't know what you're laughing, but you're going to think about something that happened in the locker room, something that happened on the field that some coach got after you about, and something that happened on the bus ride to a game, and that's what makes you, and that's what makes you special, and that's what makes life what it is after football. Because if you think it's just all the great plays you made and all the tackles you made, no, that's the learning process. That's the journey, but until you get to it, and then you remember those things, and it just gets you through the day, man. No matter how hard those girls drive you during the day, at the end of the day, you just think about the great things that have happened in your life, and that's a big part of it.
Definitely, and I can so relate to when you're talking about being in day-to-day life, and whether it's business or whether it's with the kids. I always look at it as this. One of the greatest things that football has taught me is, for every play you run, you can run it 2 or 3 different ways, depending on what the defense is doing, right? I've got to make an adjustment, and that has helped me in my career, because I've worked in a field where, it can be volatile sometimes, working with some folks that are not sure if they want to do the right thing or do the wrong thing. Yeah. In a split second, I got to make a business decision. Do I need to chase after this person, or I need to call some backup? So definitely has helped me in my everyday life, and the lessons that I've learned have been invaluable. And the people, I was just talking to my sophomore year roommate, and we were just giggling and laughing and felt like 2 kids, you know what I mean? So the game has been good to me. The game has been good to me. So thanks for sharing that. And I saw those pictures, you being able to go back to homecoming and you with the fellas. It was like, you guys are just like kids again.
It was, and one of them got a chance, Peter Woodward, a guy that I was instrumental in recruiting here from Lees McRae Junior College. He was out of D.C. We got to be really close, and after Sunday night he came over. Lizzie made pizza, and we just shared stories of just family and things, and it's great. One thing I learned in this is, you're never going to become the richest man in the world doing football stuff. You're never going to. The memories and the riches that you make from friendships and moments that you've shared, and just different things that happen, like we said earlier, throughout the process of being on a football team and being a part of something special. Because football is the only game, and I can't, I'm sure I get a lot of criticism on this, but and I'm probably prejudiced towards football. But football is the only game that if 11 guys don't do what they're supposed to do, that inside zone is not going to work if the guard's pulling. The outside zone is not going to work if everybody goes the opposite way where the ball's being handed. So that's the only sport where everybody has to mechanically work from the get-go, from the snap of the ball to your step right, step left, whatever the case. Because if you don't, it's not something's gonna go haywire. So,
from a basketball guy, because that was where my heart was when I was younger. Before I came to Fordham and played some football, I was told it was the ultimate team sport, football. Yeah. And I didn't understand it because I wasn't a student of the game. I didn't study it the way I learned to study it once I got to college. But you're absolutely right. You need that guy to snap the ball to the quarterback. The quarterback's got to hand the ball off to the next guy. And everybody's got to be attempting to get a good block to make things work. You know what I mean? So definitely the ultimate team sport. I want to ask you a couple questions back, going a little bit back, because I know, from our Fordham days and moving forward, because I've been, it's just been a blessing to follow you, online and see how guys are doing. I remember you had your head coaching job. We were able to talk a little bit. But what was football like for you in the beginning? How did you get hooked? Because, 50 some odd years later, something had to bite you.
It's funny. And I'm going to talk about this. I've been fortunate to be inducted into my high school Hall of Fame.
Congratulations.
And in a couple of weeks, they're going to have some kind of function. I get to see a lot of the guys. But one thing, I came over from Sicily when I was 8 years old, and my sport was soccer. But I was always a big old chubby dude, you know. And I'm being good to myself, call myself chubby. I was bordering on obese, and eventually did become obese. But I knew soccer, and I was always a goalie. So when I came to this country, that's all I knew how to do. And I moved from Everett, Massachusetts to Brooklyn, New York. My father found employment as a dock worker for many, many years in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn. So in junior high school, you know, I'm working at the grocery store, delivering groceries. And a guy that lived on my block, and in fact, I just talked to him, called him a little while ago. He said to me, you know, New Utrecht High School's having tryouts. Why don't you go for the tryouts? And I said, you know, I don't know. It's too much work. I can't run. I can't do this. And you don't realize, but the moments in your life, like we talked about, the moments that change your life and when it happens.
Right.
And I remember like it was yesterday. Jerry and I were sitting outside, and then my buddy Philly Katz, who was another very good friend of him, he came on and said, yeah, man, we're going to do it. Why don't you do it with us? Mm-hmm. And so we did it. And I was a 5'11", 303-pound, fat Italian kid that ate more than he should have, ran less. You know, I didn't run, I didn't work out. But that was the whole beginning of me understanding being pushed, you know, being directed, being the fact that you had to make sacrifices because other people count and depend on you. And finally, after the season, my JV season was over, you know, the high school coach said to me, listen, you got two choices. You either drop 40 pounds and get in shape, or you can't come out for the varsity. And I never forget, it was like somebody took a 100-pound rock and dropped it in my head, because at that point, I'd been bitten by the bug. I mean, I liked the physical contact. I liked the fact that people counted on me to run behind me. As slow as I ran, at least I gave them some kind of cover. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it was, wow, I like this. Yeah. I mean, I got to be someplace at practice, and then we do this, and then we're in the locker room. We lift a little bit of weights that we have that, you know, guys brought from home. And then we go, you know, we walk home and bust each other's stones for 30 minutes or whatever it was. I like that. And, you know, for my neighborhood, what you did when you were young, you didn't think about school sports after school. You went from high school and then you had to go to work. Unfortunately for me, my mom and dad were progressive enough that they didn't speak any English. We came from the other side. I would say to them, I want to do this. And my father said, is it going to help you? And I said, because we came here because he wanted us to get an education, my sister and I. And I said, I think so. They didn't understand. You know, my parents, all my mother knew, she washed a lot of dirty clothes, you know, and they never came to a game. And I understood because they worked hard. They were working and doing, but I got that bug. And then I started working out with my guys. I started seeing a transformation. I said, oh, this is pretty cool. Yeah. And now I can move. Now I can do things. And that's where it all started. And then from that point on, the love just became stronger. And the love affair became stronger because not just you love the guys you play with, but then your coaches play a very big part. And I didn't realize how they can change your life, or they can either make your life miserable or they can make your life good. Because, listen, I've had both types of coaches, and I've worked with both types of coaches. And the good ones are far and few between. And the bad ones, there's a lot of bad ones because they all think you twirl the whistle and you blow the whistle and makes your coach, and you wear your hat on backwards, which is still one of my pet peeves about that, wearing it backwards. That's not the way you do it. Yeah. Because to me, I've always approached coaching as a teacher. I would say to recruits' parents, look, I'm a teacher. My classroom is a hash field, grass or turf, or sometimes dirt. And that's what we teach. Yeah, we have a little bit of stuff in the meeting rooms and stuff, but then we progress to outside, and that's where the action happens, you know? And people looked at you differently when you explain it like that, because, you know, people back in the day, they just had the idea of a coach, a gym teacher, you know, just blows the whistle and rolls the ball. No, it's a heck of a lot more than that, because, you know, you have no idea. Well, you do, because you went through our process, and the Nick Cortaro process, which to this day I love. I'm one of the best dudes I ever worked with. Yeah. I love him to death, as you know. But, you know, one thing that you learn is that when people start relying on you mm-hmm. and expecting you, you tend to put more pressure on yourself. Yeah. Yeah. And that pressure helps you expand your mind, expand your body, and expand your attitude to say, wow, that's pretty good. Now, picture that in your mind and a coach developing those thoughts that you have. How great is that? You know, because as coaches, we see you more than any teacher at a college or school, because in high school, you went to school from 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock, okay? In college, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, in class 3 hours a day. On Tuesday and Thursday, you're in there for 3 hours a day. The rest of the day, you're either lifting weights, you're either, doing something with us. So the rest of the time, you're with your coaches. And if that guy or that coaching staff is not a good one that promotes you to become better, first, a better person,
right.
Student, better person, better, because without those fundamentals, without God, family, in football, without those three, and that's the way I always look at it, you can't be good at what you do. You can't be, and it's not a selfish thing. It's a selfless thing, because in order to be a great football player, a great athlete, you first have to be a great teammate. Because once you're a great teammate, you lead by example. You do things where people aren't watching you the right way, not when they're watching you, and you always set an example for other people. And then when those things are done and you get those guys to follow you and follow your example, that's when you become a great football player, because now you're able to accomplish all those goals and you put all that motivation to work. But, the coaches are the igniter. They either get that fire under your butt or they turn you off. And you never want to be the dude that turns you off, because that's going to affect you the rest of you. Because I know there's guys out there, in my case, hopefully not too much, but I know there's a lot of guys out there that are pissed at some of their coaches. Well, they didn't help me to get here, get there. And that's not, a coach's job is not to tell coaches where kids can play. A coach's job is to motivate that kid to become the best, especially when I was at prep school, Milford Academy. My job every year was to get 55, 60 kids in school, whether it be Division III, Division II, Division I, and the big schools. So I knew what these kids were going through. So it wasn't my job to promote one over the other. His athletic ability promoted himself over the other. And parents would say to me, why is this kid getting the action? Well, man, don't take this wrong, man, but your son's 5'11", 220 pounds. This kid's 6'5", and 300. He's got 18 offers from Division I school. There's a difference. And as a coach, you have to be a little bit of a politician, but not to the point where you lose your morals and start lying. No, you can't do that. Parents have to be told straight up. If he's not a Division I player coming into a prep school or coming in somewhere, he's not going to be a Division I player leaving, because size is size, speed is speed, and athleticism is athleticism. These are three things that you're either born with or you have a little bit of it and you develop it to the next level to where you become who you become. So, but maybe I prolonged the answer, but that's where my genesis of the whole thing came from. And there's no better sport, because to me, it saved my life. It made me who I am today, because if it wasn't for those two dudes, but to try out, I would have, God knows I would have been, hopefully on the right side of Brooklyn. Brooklyn anyway.
Well, I mean, you said a lot, Coach, and I appreciate everything you said, and we'll touch on a couple other things, but a little positive peer pressure, right, from your friends to say, hey, Vin, come try out. And then you had a coach, who was honest with you and said, this is what you need to do to get to where you want to get to. And we all need that, a little positive, a little cheerleading going on, and folks that are going to be honest to us in our lives. Because, had it not been for my high school coach, like, I don't know if you know this, but my junior year, I busted my ankle in the 6th game of the season. So I missed like 4 weeks of my junior year. And as I say, I tell everybody I was a basketball guy. I wasn't going to let that happen to me again.
I saw you play at the Lombardi Center. I knew you had some moves.
So I did not want to miss any more games, because I missed about 4 or 5 games in the basketball season because of this injury. So my senior year, I did not go out for the football team. And my coach, 3 weeks into it, I missed a couple games, said, Jimmy, your future is in football, and this is why. So he spoke some truth into my life, because really, how many schools are, recruiting 5'6", point guards, to lead their team, right? So my high school guidance counselor also told me, this is not the time to skimp on the education. You need to go where you can get the best education. And if football is going to help you get there, that's what you need to do. So I listened to those folks because they spoke truth to my life. And I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I was trying to pursue some basketball career. I really don't think so. So those are important. And, one of the other things I wanted to ask you, as you were mentioning, either you are 6'5" or you run a 4.40, as a college coach, right? And we have fathers that are listening, maybe have some hopes and dreams of their kids maybe playing at a different level. What's the advice that you would give to some dads, as far as what their kids and what they should be looking for when they're going to school?
First of all, don't ever let anybody tell you that your son can't do something or your daughter can't do something, because I don't have that in my vocabulary. I've got a special needs niece of mine that has struggled through, she's 33 now, has struggled through life. And you know what? She's overcome a ton of stuff. Yeah. So whenever I coached anywhere, and I always had a kid, well, this hurts and that. And I would just want to take that kid and say, do you understand that there's people out there that would love to be you, to have the skills that you do? So I don't believe you can't do something. If you want to, you try hard enough, you knock down buildings, you knock down mountains to get through it. But the advice I've always given parents is, listen, don't let anybody tell you kid can't do it, first of all. Second of all, there is a school or a program for everybody. Now, most parents don't want to hear my kid's not going to be a scholarship player, but that's okay, because there's a lot of Division III schools. Up here in New England, we've got tremendous academic schools, the Williams and all these different places that you can go play 8-9 games a year, get a great education, leave there and get a great job and have a great athletic experience. And then there's other schools where you can go in a Division III school that maybe is not as good academically, but your son, because he either belongs there academically or athletic, he's going to have a great experience. You never want to put a kid in a position where he's going to fail. Right. Because when you start falling down, there's only so many times a kid's going to get up and believe what you're telling him. He's got to have success. And if you ever put a kid, and I went through this again at Milford Academy, because I had a lot of parents who said, well, my kid, he's not. He can't do it. Listen to me. He can't. And then the kid will go there, and 3 weeks later, he's home. That's not the goal. That's not the goal is to find a school that your son is going to be happy and do well and matriculate. And first of all, get a great education. Secondly, have a great social experience. And third, be the best football player you can be, whether it's the Division III, Division II, Division. It does not make a difference, because you know what? When you score a touchdown at the Division I level, the noise is really deafening. When you score a touchdown at the Division III level, you know what? There's still noise there. You feel good. You look and your parents are clapping. Everybody's clapping. You're going to have a great tailgate after the game. Enjoy that, because just like we said at the beginning of the program, the lessons that you learn doing those things will carry you through life and family and business. That's the advice I've always given. Don't give up because somebody says to you, your kid can't do this. I've had a lot of experiences like that where I've had to tell families, look, he might not be able to do it here, but here's a place you should go to and see what happens after that. You never let a kid down and say, hey, the bottom just fell out on the kid, because how's he going to pick himself back up? Right. How's he going to go back to high school and expect that kid to finish and get and have a great experience, first of all, in the senior year and get an education? It's not, you never want to tear anybody down, because as soon as you tell somebody like yourself, if you looked at you coming out of high school, this kid can't, what are we going to do? He's going to get killed. We play against corners at Lehigh and Lafayette that were 6'2" and ran it. But you know what? Jimmy was beating them and got behind him. We were able to get the ball to him. And was Jimmy the greatest blocker on the perimeter? Yeah, because you know what? Whether he blocked you or not, he got in your way and was able to give his buddy a chance to run by and do what he was supposed to do. So you're a prime example of that. Because how many people would say, you're too small to do this? But your basketball coach was right. Maybe you couldn't be a good basketball player because of the height factor, because that's very important. But in football, it was great. Yeah, it works out. There's a place for everybody, and kids should never be told that they can't do something, because once you tell them that, it's like the beginning of the end for a lot of them, because, kids aren't as tough and as strong as they used to be. And I don't want to sound like I'm the crotchety, curmudgeon from 100 years ago, but that's just the way things are today. They have to be told what to do, how to do it, and why they're doing it. Because if they don't know those things, they're never going to explore. Because, well, you know, why am I doing? Give me an answer. Well, you have to. It's just like a coach who comes in and says, Coach, I don't think that play is going to work. Okay, great. I'm with you. But what do you suggest we should do? Don't come in my office and say this isn't going to work if you don't have a plan for me to make it work. The solution, you know. But that's the advice.
I love that. You know, there's a place for everybody, right? You don't want to sacrifice your academic ability, because the truth of the matter is how many folks are making it to the pros anyway, right? So we have to be realistic in that, and plan Bs mean a lot, right? You know, my plan A was to get my education. The plan B was to use football to do that. But there's a place, go where folks want you, right? Academics, the social experience, and just having a good, you know, opportunity to play football. You know, with a lot of the young folks that I work with today, you know, I remember being on a job interview and they said, you know, what if this kid said they wanted to be an international DJ? It's not my job to crush that goal. My thing is to say, what are you doing right now to be able to get there? You know, are you going to the clubs? Are you listening to the latest music? Are you working on your skills to be able to do this? Hey, then you have a fighting chance. But if you're not doing anything, that's a whole different ball game. So I'm not a dream crusher. So I appreciate that from you, Coach. You know, being positive, giving kids something to look forward to.
If you're not dreaming about something that you want to accomplish, and as a young, I tell, to this day, I still tell kids, if you love football, the minute you get up, it's on your mind. The minute you get up and do breakfast, you're eating your cereals, whether it's Chex, you know, rice Chex or what's those little Cheerios, and you see those circles. Oh, that looks like a football. You got to think, because you know what? If you dream it, it might not be the one that you want, but at least you're going to achieve it, and that's the that's the important part of it. It's not getting there. It's how you get there. Once you get there, be satisfied and be happy. Because I've been around a lot of people, and the team that we had at Fordham, you know, we were about this close to becoming a real tremendous program, and you were a big part of it. But there was a lot of kids that we had there that we had to develop. And if you constantly told them you weren't good, you can't do this, what do you think was going to happen? You know, if I told Jack Parasini that you can't go and play football, he would have punched me in the face. And one time I think he wanted to, because I don't know if you remember this, and I think it was your junior, senior year. You know, his shoulders hanging down to the ground, and we're playing. I thought it was Lafayette. I mean, his shoulders dragging. And I said, get out of here. And I yanked him out. He goes, no, I'm not coming. And you know what I said? Okay, fine. You want to do it? And we came this close on the sideline with Mosley the same way. Yep. I said, get out. I mean, we're this far away. But those kids have learned those lessons, because they taught me something. You know, if they couldn't do it, they would come out. But since they feel it, I never questioned it from that point on. So you've been around those dudes that know them, and you've probably done it yourself. Because again, if you feel you can go, man, knock that stuff out. I don't care, get it done. But I was also looking out for him. Just know that Coach Sinagra was looking out for, because some days you might have to write that big check back to Fordham. Right. I want that arm to work.
Yeah. You know, it's that's one of the things that I learned in college, right? Because in high school, you know, you played defense, you played offense, you played special teams, you never came off the field, right? But the biggest step in college is you played one way, and there was somebody that was breathing down your throat to get those reps. So, you know, there's a difference between being injured and hurt. You know, if it hurts, you can, you know, just go kiss it and get out there. You know, you're injured, that's a little something different. So those were some tough guys. I played with them 3 and 4 years coming in with those guys. So awesome stuff. Wanted to ask you this, Coach. You know, I had a little bit of coaching experience. I coached for Coach Mariani up at Iona, you know, the year that I left. And, you know, as a young guy, 1 year's removed, you know, I knew what my role was. My role was to teach these guys the offense, because everything was new, right? So to teach them the offense. But, you know, for a person like you who've had years under your belt, did you ever see your role with the kids change a little bit? You know, you mentioned, you know, mom and dad didn't come to many games, working hard, you know, and there's some of those kids, you know, I was one of those kids. Mom, dad didn't come to many games. Did you ever see your role shifting to be a little bit more for some of the guys?
Yeah, and it's funny you should mention that, because I had to walk out at 4 different schools or 3 different schools with one of my guys because his parents couldn't be there. So that was a big honor for me that I was asked, that the young man asked me to do that. And I felt bad for him because I knew what it was like, on a Saturday, except for family day when my parents were able to come up on a Saturday. And I just had this conversation this week with somebody at the game. You look in the stands and everybody's, you see Tommy's parents, you see Jeff's parents, you see Cliff's parents, and then you look and I know why they couldn't be there. It wasn't that I was upset. That's just the way it worked, but it was also nice to know that those people knew that my parents weren't there. So after the game, I became part of their group and their family because they would invite me to dinners and this and that and the other. But that's important. But that's how the role changes because each kid is different. And if somebody tries to give you this line, they're either lying or haven't done this a lot. You have to teach every kid differently. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants the A students to mm-hmm. sit in the front of the row because they're easy to teach, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to talk about Johnny or Vinny, in my case, in the back in Utrecht High School, sitting at the last row, last seat, who's a C average kid, and is afraid to raise his hand because, he knows he's not the smart. But I was street smart enough to know when to answer, how to answer, and how to get it done. And there's a difference between that academic smart sometimes and that street smart. Now you combine those two things together and you've got something special. And that's what I've always tried to do with my kids. Find out what made them tick, find out what their special thing was or their Achilles heel and take care of that Achilles heel and promote the goodness in them to elevate them to do better. Because, like I said to you earlier, and Coach told me a story. Coach Q told me a story one time. I can't repeat it on air, but it had to do with you can only whip a mule so many times before he looks at you and says, "Dude, go somewhere." Don't. And that's the same way with people. If you tell somebody that they are not good long enough, they're going to say, "Okay, then the guy's right," and that's not the way it should be. So yes, my role did change as a coach because I went more. And I always had that parental thing in me because I loved the guys I coached. Yep. And they would come. And there was a special bond because I never judged. I never criticized. All I ever wanted to do was help. And by help promoting the kid to do better as he went along, whatever step of life. I get calls now. For you, it's great that when you call, we talk, there's always great things. But I also get some calls of kids that are down in their luck a little bit and they need something. And who do they call? They're not going to call their English professor. They're not going to call their math teacher. They're going to call somebody that they had a relationship with, and that's what happens. They call, "Coach, I'm going to get married. What's it like doing this and doing that?" Those are great fun, but you always get that one or two that, he's calling for something, but he just needed to hear somebody's voice. Mm-hmm. He won't tell you exactly what's going on, but because the kid, there's something there. And just by talking to him, just very little, gets that kid back to where he needs to be. But
it's important. Your voices speak so much life into us. And, a lot of people who may not know football the way we do, you said it earlier, the relationship, but we spend so much time with our, position players, with our position coaches, studying film, like you said, working out, 2.5 hour, practices. Mm-hmm. There's so much time that we spend with you guys throughout the day that, you guys know before even our parents know sometimes the things that were going on, especially on campus, right? There's many a times I've been in the office and it's not even just the coaches. We can talk about the support staff, Pat, I don't know how many times I've just spilled my heart. Like, I don't know, Pat, if I can make it, she's like, James, you're going to be okay.
Sit on a little couch and listen to Pat talk. Great. Yeah.
So all of those things matter when you have a young person that's going through lots of emotional and mental changes in their lives and trying to find their way. So I thank you, Coach, even to this day, again, I can call you whenever. You always got a good word. You always got a joke or something, sharing something that we've had in the past. That means a lot to me because that's the thing. Again, we're trying to find ourselves. And it's like, am I really that important? And then you call somebody and 27 years later, they're telling you, you're the handsomest guy with all that hair and all of that. I'm like, I must have meant something, So thank you. And, and I thank you for walking out with those guys, on their senior days, because
pleasure. It was always a pleasure.
For me, parents came a little bit. My dad wasn't able to come all the time. And I remember our last game, home game at Fordham, it was against Townsend State. It's like a monsoon. I mean, the field was muddy and water all over the place. And I wasn't sure if folks were going to show up, but my mom and dad both, in the pouring down rain, was there. And that's one of the best memories I have of my football career is
Yeah.
them being there to see that. And I
Yeah.
balled out. I balled out, we won, so that
Yeah.
makes it even better.
You always did. You always did. But see what you remember, you remember the football part of it, but you also remember that special part that your parents were able to see you there.
Yeah.
And that's more important sometimes than the football part, because they cared. They did whatever they had to do to go see their son play. And my father came to one high school game.
Mm-hmm.
And back in the day in Brooklyn, we used one team used the same field. One played at 11, the other one played at 1. So my dad took time off from work, and I told him when to go there, but somehow, because my wife says I have selective hearing, so she must have heard the same thing he went and he sat through a game. And when he got home that night, he says, I went to the game. I didn't see you. Where were you? I said, what time were you there? He said, I was there at 11. I said, we played at 1. I told you 1 o'clock. But was I upset? No, because at least he made the effort to be there. And that was important. I didn't care that he saw me play. The effort that he made to be there, and that he was upset that he didn't get a chance to see me. That was even that was even cool.
Yeah.
But those are things that are important.
Very much so. Very much so.
I find myself now, and Lizzie's been through the journey with me forever, so she knows all the same people that I do. And it's great to see these kids when we go to their weddings. And somebody said to us, we had 7 or 8 weddings this summer, right? And somebody said to me, at her, why do you go to all these weddings? It's because we want to. He says, we don't have to go, because it's not like the parents of the bride or the groom invited us. No, it was the groom that invited us, that Vinny knows they either played for me or they coached for me. And you know what? I was able to go to Tallahassee, Florida, to see one of the guys, one of the dudes that coaches at Florida State. He worked for me. We went to California to see my nephew. I went to see another one of my local. I mean, it was great. And it was great to see all the knuckleheads get back together. And now, 5, 6, 10 years later, to see the great things that they're doing. And I'm looking at them going, this kid's doing this. Yeah. When I used to call in my office every day to make sure that he wasn't in trouble. But that's the beauty about being a father, being a coach, because you see these kids develop, and you say, "Wow, they listen. They might." And they told me, says, "Coach, half the time we didn't know what we were doing on the football field. You guys taught us everything, but once the lights started went on, it was like, oh man, it was just. But you guys tried your hardest, and this was at the Division III level.
Yeah.
But the fact that they remembered it and then they admit to that, that's a big old admission to make to the guy that was working and trying to get to where you wanted to go. But it's great. It's a great experience. It's a great life. It's a great journey. And I've had nothing but fun, man. Yeah, people say if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. That's the way I feel now. Some days were longer than others. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, it was always good to come home and share stuff.
And it's great seeing you, Mrs. Sinagra, going to the weddings. You're always the most handsome couple in the crowd.
Oh,
you dressed to the nines. I got to give you that. I have to shout out Mrs. Sinagra, who also played a very important role, in this journey for me. Today.
Huge.
I can reach out to her online and, hey, I need to know what snacks to give the kids to have some energy. Yeah. She hits me up. And I remember, I'll share the story about her when she was working with the team, getting our numbers for body fat and things of that nature. She was so worried about me because my body fat was so low. She's like, my gosh, you got to eat some peanut butter or do something because you're just going to get bruised up, So love her. Just the greatest.
The nice thing about her, she's been involved as a fan and as a support system, but never telling, how to do this, how to do that, which is great. And I'll share a quick story with you. She made cookies for everybody, no matter where we've been, the defensive line, whoever gets sacks, and, we have them over for dinner, whether it be a steak dinner or whatever. I thought I was going to go get a part-time job when I was at Holy Cross. Every week I would have them over for steak. It was like, holy shit. But I'll share a quick story with you. I had the opportunity, one of the best coaching experiences I ever had. I coached at Norfolk State, and white face, all black school, but it was the most wonderful experience I ever had in my life. Mm-hmm. And what made it even nicer was those kids were very welcoming. They listened. They were good people. They wanted to go to school. They wanted to make better themselves, and they were great kids. But one thing they wanted Lizzie would come down because we were living apart at the time. She would come down every Friday, and she made the mistake of making cookies one time. So they were up in the office, and they all came over to get the cookies. So now it's like on Wednesdays, Miss Sinagra bringing the cookies, and she's come. It got to the point, James, where we finish our meetings, and they'd be outside the door before she even parked the car. Yeah. They'd be all waiting for the cookies. But whatever, Mama got cookies. That's what they would say. And whatever it took, but it bonded those kids over something. And you know what? When we got to the football field, I didn't have to tell, those kids balled out because they respected the fact they were treated like great human beings. There was nothing there but total respect and love for one another. And that's important. And people say to me, what's it like coaching a major at a BC? At a black school? I said, it's the best because you know what? I got what you're looking for. I got great kids. I got great athletes. And the will to win is incredible. And it was beautiful.
Love it. Really, I'm glad you shared that experience. I saw that on your bio, and I was like, ask him about that. What was that like? And I'm following Coach Prime right now and what he's doing at Jackson State, and getting those kids up and going. And love it. It's a great thing. Football is football.
The great thing about coaching, just like and I always relate to business. I have a lot of business friends that I talk to all the time. I relate it to business because what he's doing there, the marketing part of it, to get people to see, hey, these schools are pretty good. When you watch them on TV, Albany, Alabama State, or Jackson State, or Norfolk State, or wherever the kid, it's good football. And now what he's done, not that they weren't on the map before, because to me, Eddie Robinson was the best coaches that ever lived. I used to watch him at conventions, and I would listen to him and what he did in that sand pit that he had as a football field with those cats and how many NFL dudes he had. And Prime's doing it now at the upper echelon level, and he's just going to get better and better and better. I just hope that somebody doesn't come in and say, hey, how about coming to this place or that place? Because not that he wouldn't be good there, but I think he's good where he's at right now because he's getting those kids recognized. He's getting the conference recognized. He's getting the whole, they got a TV contract now. They got shoe contracts now. Something that never happened before. But again, all it takes is a voice. All it takes is a guy to believe in the program. And, it can't be that bad of a school when you have your son playing for you.
Both two of them, right?
And I'm sure that the little dude had many opportunities to go a lot of different places, But I think what he's doing, and when you see him and Nick Saban, who I have the most respect for as a football coach, doing same commercials, they need to put them together. But you take two great icons, as a player and whatever else he did before he began the coaching, and you take Nick Saban. I mean, that's a big, powerful statement to make.
Definitely,
and that's important. And kids see that, and they want to make it come out and play and do things better. But he has changed that level of football, and not just is that conference going to get stuff or be equated to, hey, this is great, but all the other 1AA schools I think are going to follow suit and say, there's some great players here. And if you look at it every year in the draft, there's always 3-4 guys that go from those schools, and they become, they beat out guys who are drafted in the second and third round. And that happens every year. So there's a reason why they do it. But I think he's done some great stuff, and that's good for you to follow him because I think he's going to, he's a great human being, first of all. And for all the flash and all the glitter, I think his heart is as big as the whole world. And he tries to do the right stuff, which is good, which is really
Coach,
good.
I always love to give my guest the last word. Anything you want to give the audience, word of advice, piece of encouragement, the floor is yours.
I just, and I've done a lot of assessing the last year since I sit on my wife bought me this beautiful recliner, James. It's like 1.5 times the size of me. It's beautiful. It's like being nestled by your mama when you sit and you get the big blanket. So I sit there and I watch a lot of football. She tapes every game for me, but I also get a lot of chance to think. She goes to bed early. I stay up. I'm a night cat. You know me. I used to walk the halls to all hours of the day. But I've done a lot of reassessing and assessing. I look back and I'm saying to myself, you know what? All the things that bothered you, let it go, when I was younger. Because if you carry that baggage, it's only going to affect you down the road. And I'm at a place in my life, I love football. I don't need to be in football, but I love being around football. And that's important for you to understand, because when you get to be a certain age, it's not about money. It's not about wealth. It's not about fame. It's about being comfortable where you're at in your life and your accomplishments. I've never been, and I've told you guys this many times, there's a reason why it's called a rearview mirror. You look at it once in a while to see what's behind you. Because if you constantly look at that mirror as you're trying to go forward, you're never going to get there, man. And I've lived my life. Once it happens, it's done. You know, people say to me, how many times you see that movie? Once. Only one time. Yeah, I saw the movie. It was great. I've seen it 7 times. Well, good for you. I don't need to know verbatim what they said in the movie. It was a good movie. I'm good. I moved on. But so as I assess, I say, okay, I've let go of a lot of things that bothered me. Mm-hmm. Okay. And now I just worry about making it better for the rest of my life with my wife and I. And, you know, going to see kids, going to see football games, you know, being at a tailgate. Holy mackerel, I've been to 2 tailgates. It's like, are you kidding me? People got lobster tails on there. They got steaks, cheese steaks. I'm like, where was it? My wife says, well, that's what we did at Temple every weekend. That's what we did at Georgia Tech. You were working. You know, they were out there 9 o'clock in the morning having mimosas and doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I guess those are the things. And live in the moment. You know, live your life. Try to live your life, because you can't worry about what happened and why it happened, because if you do that, you drive yourself crazy. Yeah. Just know that you're here now. And I wish I could tell you every kid that you call, say, if you call 100 people, I guarantee you 80 would say Coach Sinagra did some great things. And 20 would say, well, I don't know if he helped me as much. And you're always going to get that. But I'll take that. I'll take 80%. Yeah, I'll take that. But if you worry about what you did or didn't do, because if you're worried about it, then you didn't do it the first time. And if you didn't do it the first time, you can't change it now. So worry about what you did, take care of business now, and just move on and give it good advice when people call. Like when you call my other guy, just give them good advice and say, hey, man, you know, just smile, because football has changed. Athletics have changed. Kids have changed. You know, when we were going through, when I was at Fordham with you guys, the biggest thing Q and I would talk about in the write-in on Monday or Sunday morning or Monday would be how many kids got arrested, how many guys with the bar that got in a fight, and you know, how many kids cut class on Friday. Those are, now it's a whole different thing. You walk in, how many kids tested positive for COVID? The name and image and likeness. I mean, as a head coach or as a position coach, you got to worry about a million things, because when we had a room of receivers, all we talked about is a post pattern, a 10 pattern, a 7 pattern, this pattern. Now guys are checking their phone. Is my agent calling me for a name? I mean, it's a whole new world, and we have to navigate through it, because if you don't, it's not going to be pretty, man. And better, smarter heads than mine have to prevail and say, okay, where are we going with this? Because it's going to affect the kids. You know, it's going to affect the kids. But did I answer your question? Because I just love talking to you.
You answered it, and I love talking to you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep, I hear you.
I just believe that at some point in time, all the things that happened to you, there's a reason why it happened. And the fact that you survived says something about you and says something about your support system. Yeah. Because there's many times when, you know, we won a championship with Stony Brook University. You know, we won the ACA, whatever title. They gave us some ring and everything. And as they're marching us out, they gave us some ring, and we were fired because our coach retired and they were bringing somebody new in. And we just won a championship. So what do you say? Oh, man, thanks to pick up your door prize on the way out. I mean, but that's the way the business is. And you have to understand it is a business. You know, you might love the kids you're with, and the next day something happens, or next week or next year something happens, you got to move on. But those are the little things you can't let bother you, because if you let them bother you, they're going to bother you for the rest of your life. And, you know, kids today have a lot on their plate, and you just want to help them navigate through. And the best thing you can give, advice you can give that kid, is live the day, live the moment, because if you worry too much, you're never going to get to the next step. And that's just the way I feel. I mean, that's my philosophy. And look, this comes from a C student from the University of Rhode Island, one of the best schools in the East Coast, as far as I'm concerned.
What good school. You went on, got your master's, and you did all of that stuff. So you are a man who pursued education.
Wait. I did get my master's. If it wasn't for my wife typing in, I never got my papers approved.
Coach, it's always a blast, talking to you, catching up. I really appreciate you being on the show and sharing with the dads and the audience. And I appreciate you, man.
If you ever need anything from me, you know where I'm at. If you ever come back east, we make the best pizza in the world.
Yeah, you do.
You don't have to go to all those famous places in New Haven or Brooklyn. You come here. Mama Sinagra's always got dough.
Yeah.
We don't have money in the refrigerator. We got dough. Real dough. So we make pizza.
Hey, I'm going to take you up on that. I'm going to take you up on that once we get back out. I'd love to introduce you to the loves of my life, my wife and my 2 girls. So you don't even have to ask me again. I'm on that one. So I will see you soon. Coach, thank you. I appreciate it. And I'll talk to you soon.
Love you and best to the family. Give them big hugs from us, right?
Will do.
Love you, man.
Thank you for joining this episode of Fatherhood and Football, a Dad's Thing production, where finding and embracing our roles in fatherhood is a journey and one that we do not have to do alone. Please join us next Thursday for our next episode and follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at A Dad's Thing for all your fatherhood-related content. You can also find our podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Breaker, and Radio Public.